So, Xbox has had a very long and interesting history when it comes to controllers. Back in 2001, their original controller was known as a laughingstock, and we go from that to the 360, which was deemed, I think, one of the best controllers of all time, just with a very ugly D-pad, to the Xbox One controller being laughed at for just refusing to not put in a rechargeable battery and just sticking with double A's for the longest time, to what we have now, and just barely changing anything, really. This is part of its really weird and complex history with controllers. Hey, it's Station X here, and with that long intro aside, we're going to be taking a look at the Xbox One Elite controller. And like its interesting history with controllers before, this itself, I think, has an interesting history, because essentially, this is for the first time, a corporate, just first-party answer to the custom controller craze that a lot of competitive people like. So many competitive first-person shooter fans love having custom controllers. It's been a thing for the PS3 and 360 for the longest time, since those consoles had a very growing online multiplayer fan base. That was the first consoles to really have a large multiplayer player base to begin with. So with that comes new challenges. You know, you have people who very much love competitive multiplayer games and want to have any kind of advantage they can over the other player, because they just can't handle losing.
Come on! Come on, you bitch! Pussy motherfucker! Fuck you!
So what we're gonna do, what we're gonna do is look at a controller that essentially got its start through another company called Scuff. Sure, everyone's heard of Scuff. That's essentially what this controller is pretty much based off of, because it has the same kind of paddles and the same type of customization, but it just goes a little bit of a step further, because of the fact it was made by the same people who make the console. It takes advantage of things that a Scuff controller really can't. Now also, at the time, Scuff controllers were, I think, fairly pricey for what they were, but of course you had full customization over most things. And while you can't really customize the way the controller looks, the appearance of it, and just certain little aspects here and there, for what it is, I think it's extremely customizable compared to just the standard controller that you get. So, as we take a look at the box here, the sides are very nice. Just taking a look at the back of it, and you see all of it right then and here. And something that this was strongly advertising was just the fact that this is a custom experience. You can set what you want on it. So if you want the buttons to be rearranged, you can. Like, if you want the actions to be rearranged. If you want to switch the thumbsticks, you can. You can switch the D-pad. You can switch the paddles out in any combination you want. You can have a toggle switch on where the trigger stops. So, like, honestly, this was like really good for games like first-person shooters like Call of Duty, Battlefield, Halo, things of that nature, just because of the fact that those are, I think, some of the most competitive games, especially stuff like Fortnite or Apex Legends or Warzone, etc., etc. You get what I'm going at. Battle Royale games, they're everywhere. This is a kind of controller that most people would want to have, but this came out around about 2016-17. So, of course, those kinds of games weren't at their stride yet. So this was mainly, I think, attracted the first-person shooters of, like, the games I mentioned before, Call of Duty, Battlefield. A lot of those gamers really liked this controller.
UAV recon standing by.
But they did advertise it for other stuff too, like racing games and etc. But really, if you're gonna buy this, I think for the most part you're gonna be playing some kind of competitive shooter, and that's pretty much it. Now that we've taken a look at just pretty much every other aspect of this box, why don't we just open it, see what it's like. is it really worth the price tag? Because when this came out, this was $150. Of course, you can find it for a little bit cheaper now, especially since it's been out for a while now, so you can have pre-owned versions if you fancy that. And there is a more updated version of this controller called the Series 2, which we will take a look at a future time. But for now, we're just going to be taking a look at this. And you kind of already saw it, but it comes with a carrying case. This carrying case, I think, was really nice. It's really nice feeling. It's got this nice rubber logo on it. And it's just easier to just pop this in your bag and not worrying about messing around with the controller and getting it all broken or whatever. So I thought this was really nice. And even in the inside, as we unzip it, comes with a little pouch that you could put your cable in. Since I already kind of opened this, the cable it's not in the box, but it does come with this nice, very lengthy cable for this. It's not USB-C, it's the standard USB cable that they used back in the day. But it was good enough, and it was really nice and lengthy, so that you could, if you wanted to charge it and be a bit of a distance away from the TV, you can do that. You have that option. And as you can see here, this thing looks beautiful. It's very pleasing to look at, visually pleasing. And I just really like the metal look they were going for here with the silver, man. It was just really nice. But something that's really distracting is this guy right here, this lime green that just shows up throughout the controller. This really doesn't match the aesthetic they were going for, so why they decide to do that. And oh, by the way, right here on the D-pad too, that's not very annoying at all. I always hated that lime green color on this thing. Thankfully, they did fix it with the later version, but when I first saw it, I was just like, man, they couldn't come up with any other color to go along with this. They could have just made it silver like the top over here, or like this nice matte black. No, they didn't want to do that. They just said, let's make it lime green. But at the very least, at least it was something that at least the Xbox logo is. Like, the Xbox logos is usually this either dark or lime green color. At least they didn't make it something like random, like blue or purple or whatever. That would have been very annoying. I don't know. It was one of my biggest pet peeves with this, is just that distracting color there. But besides that, like, one very small negative, that's just nitpicking. This other big negative here, of course, is the fact that this thing's not rechargeable.
Ah! Good God! It's hideous.
Which, well, I'm a big fan of Microsoft and their Xbox things, and just big fan of the system itself. My first console I ever owned, where I didn't have to share with anybody, was a 360. And so I have a very soft spot when it comes to Microsoft stuff. But my God, I just don't understand their reliance on just not doing rechargeable. There's only one controller that I know of that they made that has a rechargeable battery, and it's the Series 2 OE. Now, with focusing on this one, this being $150 and not having a rechargeable battery is a very big bummer. Like, this is more than double the price of a standard controller, and it just did not have a rechargeable battery. And that was one of the things this thing was kind of lampooned for. But if you ignore that big hurdle, this thing is really nice. It's nice and hefty in the hand, so this doesn't feel like a child's toy. This also is very customizable, with coming with 3 types of thumbsticks. Another type of D-pad, this nice circle one that it comes with here. Here we go. Look at that. That looks really nice, and I usually prefer to have that one on anyway. And these things are magneted on, so they just kind of like go in like that. So you don't have to worry about them just flying out whenever you want to play games. The same thing with the thumbsticks too. So something I usually like to do, and I do it really good with the middle thumbsticks, which we'll just take a look at here while we have them out. That's how big these things are. And they're nice and domed too. I really liked these style thumbsticks just because it kind of reminds me of the PS3 thumbsticks, and I thought those were very comfortable. The PS3 and 360, I think, had the most comfortable thumbsticks. So I just dropped that one. But here, look at this. You can lift the controller up without it dropping. And of course,
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
of course I drop it. So, if you move it slowly, but the big deal is they will not, no matter how hard you fling this thing, will not come out at all. I think that's really cool. Just don't do this. Like, don't just grab it by the thumbsticks, because of course you're gonna do what I do and drop it, because I just don't use my head with that. Now, you also have the ability of switching profiles, so you can make a whole custom button layout for all these, for a specific game, say Halo. You can use a specific button layout for Halo. Maybe have some of the buttons in the back be assigned over here instead of here. Maybe you have a button assigned on the D-pad or whatever, and you want to switch it over to something else, but you don't want to keep it exactly this. Like, this is, you only want that button layout for Halo. You switch it to player number 2, and it'll be the automatic default, but you can set this to whatever else you want. So say the only other game you really play is Call of Duty, right? Then you can have a custom layout for that, and it be its own kind of just custom layout on its own. Kind of similarly to how when you have a PC game and you can just edit the keys to that specific game, you have at least up to 2 profiles with this. And the Elite series, the Elite controllers, both the 1 and 2, have a custom application on the Xbox One and Series X that's specifically for this, the remapping of the face buttons and just the commands in general. And speaking of the face buttons, these paddles are obviously connected to the face buttons, and you can rearrange whichever paddle does what. Doesn't matter. The only thing I will say about these paddles is I never really used them as much. I tried. In the beginning, I tried because I thought this was such a cool idea, because normally when you're playing a game, when you want to reach these front face buttons, you gotta take your thumb and reach over here, and then your thumb's not on the thumbstick anymore. With the paddles, you can keep your thumbs on the thumbsticks and still hit the buttons. So you would never really lose movement when you're playing like a first-person shooter or whatever. But for at least me, I find it very uncomfortable to hold it like this. And because how large they are, I end up hitting the buttons by accident. Any slight amount of pressure will trigger the button push. And sometimes I find that I'll just throw it on the, like, not throw, but just place it on the on a bed or couch or whatever when I don't want to play or I'm just watching a movie, end up hitting the button by accident. And so, like, I don't like that. And of course, you don't have to have all 4 on. You can just have 1 or 2 or whatever amount of combination you want. And that's another thing. You don't have to have the 2 thumbsticks here. You could have another combination of this. And I almost forgot, we also had another set of thumbsticks. Really, they're just larger versions of this one. It's the tallest one, and it's about the same height as if you had this with a control freak on it. Although you could put a control freak on this since it has the same kind of top as the other one. But you could have a combination like this, where you have this as the dome and this is the tall one, or just all of the above. And here we're gonna look at what it looks like with the 2 tall thumbsticks. So yeah, that looks really goofy to me, but some people like it like that. I personally have my own control freaks to make the thumbsticks like that as well. So, I mean, I really, I thought those were goofy looking too, but at least it helped me play the game a little bit better. But this thing was very customizable. Like, that was pretty much the whole point of this controller, was the fact that it's customizable features. And so you also have this case serves not only to hold the controller, but just to hold all the accessories as well. You even have a slot for all the paddles, which I end up just taking off anyway. And of course, you have these stop gas, which you have the normal travel distance with the trigger, or you can slide it down, and now you can fire even faster or aim down faster. And unfortunately, this thing's not Bluetooth, so you won't be able to do your normal Bluetooth functions, either like connecting this to a phone, a tablet, a computer. You have to wire it, get a cable to put it wired. So that's unfortunate with this controller. So would you buy this today? This is fine. for what it is. And also, I think at the time it was extremely cool to have. Essentially, this was almost like if you really wanted to try hard in a really competitive game and show that you cared a little too much about it, this would be the controller you would buy. I didn't notice a lot of my friends didn't really bother to buy this either, but I was, for one, a big fan of this. Would I buy this over the Series 2? Probably not. The only thing that's different between this and the Series 2, besides the Bluetooth, as far as like, just things that you don't get, is you don't get the same type of thumbstick. You get these thumbsticks, but you don't get the domed thumbsticks, and you don't get this really nice tall one, and you can't put these on the Series 2. They are not compatible with each other. These thumbsticks and the Series 2 thumbsticks do not swap with each other, because they use a different thing to hold the thumbsticks in, which I think was very stupid, because why does that matter? You know, like, I should just think that's one point against its customization, is that you couldn't use those different things. So I thought that was kind of a letdown when the Series 2 came out and you couldn't do that. But I mean, if you didn't want to spend the extra money on a Series 2, which that one's even more expensive, this is the cheapest version of a very competitive Pro controller for the Xbox One and other systems that you can get, because you could also play this on the computer, on your Game Pass, and stuff like that. The only thing is, you just could not use this on other Bluetooth connected devices. The only reason why you could use this on the computer is because you could play it wired. So that is what severely hurts it, but it's really for a specific type of individual in the first place. So with this, you know, if you only have an Xbox One or a Series X and you just want to play your first person shooters a little bit better, then this is not so bad as like a way to not spend as much on a controller but still spending more than a standard price controller. It's a little weird. It's a little hard to recommend this to a specific person nowadays, but at the time this was really something that, if you were very competitive with a game, like, this was really nice to own. That's pretty much it with the Series Elite Series 1 controller. I would like to hear what you guys think about it. Did you own this? Did you thought this was cool when it came out? Tell me in the comments below. But that'll be it for today. Thank you guys for watching, and have a good day.
Right here is my favorite thing ever in the history of forever.